You know, these shootings are the kind of tragedy that make you kind of afraid to go to work.
Yeah, Deputy District Attorney Wendy Patrick is an expert on workplace violence because this is very high profile in nature because it was a TV news crew. They were broadcasting live on the air when it happened. But when you boil it down, this is a disgruntled former employee who could have worked anywhere.
He could have worked anywhere, and there are people like this in every workplace. You know, some of the things that investigators are looking at now are things that were publicly available before this morning, and it's such a tragedy. And a couple of those things include the fact that this was apparently a serial litigant, so this wasn't the first time there'd been a grievance made alleging discrimination. It also was somebody that when they terminated him had to be escorted by police from the building. Now, it's not every employee that's got to be escorted out by the police. The period of time probably allowed some people to let their guard down. Remember, he was fired 2 years ago. But psychologists will tell you that grievance collecting doesn't necessarily mean that somebody stops holding a grudge after a week or 2 weeks, that in fact it can be much longer. And what I think we're going to find, especially given the words that we saw about this manifesto, is there may have been some motivation, if you will, by watching other acts of violence. As terrible as that is, we hate to think that copycat crime is as prevalent as it is, but we may find some more elements of that involved in this morning's tragedy.
It just so happens this is in our business, in the TV news business. This could have been any business. Are there warning signs? What do people do? Because everybody knows that person at work that they kind of go, I'm not sure about that guy or gal.
Well, a couple of the things we look at, you know, this is in connection with my being a San Diego State business ethics professor, is we look at what kind of professions might be more susceptible to this kind of workplace violence. One thing that seems to be the same across professions is some people work to live and others live to work. In other words, we saw this with Christopher Dorner. The identity is their job, and that's dangerous when you fire somebody whose whole identity is wrapped up in their occupation. Now, that may or may not have been the case here, as it's very fresh, new information is coming out, but we worry about that, and especially the people that are tasked with hiring people like this. We already know that this employee was unhappy, he was difficult to work with. You wonder whether that's now an understatement in retrospect, but there were sort of difficulties, if you will, in the workplace, even when he was employed. And by the way, not just in the station that discharged him 2 years ago, but possibly in former employments as well.
Yeah.
And you wonder, is there something that employers, that places can do now? Are there policies that can be changed to try to guard against this kind of thing?
Policies include being very alert to statements such as the kinds of statements that employees like this make, being very unhappy, feeling. In fact, one of the things that was that characterized this man apparently in the workplace was looking for reasons to be upset, to be offended. Now, again, reporting is very early, but we've already heard some reports to that extent. We know that litigation is public record, so it's not a matter of looking into confidential records to find out how many times somebody has very publicly alleged that they're being discriminated against. So you look at holding grudges, you look at grievance collecting, and as you say, this happens in every kind of workplace.
Wendy Patrick, thank you for trying to shed some light on this for us.
Thank you.
We certainly need it here because we can't make sense of this.
Stay safe.
Yeah,
both
really
of you.
vigilant.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, and